Hello and welcome to CWU News, bringing you the latest stories from around the communications industry. As always, you can find further information on all of our featured stories on CWU TV and in the union's digital magazine, eVoice. The icons you can see on screen now will pop up during the programme to show you where you can view more in-depth interviews and reports. Coming up this month. No redundancies at Royal Mail in London. Manpower warned of public exposure. Ultimatum to BT Retail. And the CWU triumphs at the TUC Awards. But first, following concerns over compulsory redundancies in London and a vote for industrial strike action, the CWU has reached a deal with Royal Mail over jobs in the capital. The new agreement guarantees that there'll be no compulsory redundancies as major workplace change is rolled out. CWU has sent a stark warning to Manpower following its decision to avoid new European legislation designed to stop the exploitation of agency workers. Delegates voted unanimously at conference to launch a high-profile name and shame campaign following trials of new contracts at a number of BT Retail customer service sites.
Well, the first thing that we've done is that we've met with Manpower. And that meeting has just taken place. We've put our case. It is a principled argument, and Manpower stated that they're working within the law. We also stated to Manpower that they don't actually have to issue these types of contracts, even though the regulations do allow it, and that pay is the major concern to us. We've been campaigning for many years on the issue of unfair pay rates, the fact that they don't receive a pay increase, and that they need to look at a mechanism for an annual pay increase.
Following royal assent, the Postal Services Bill has now become law. The Act will allow for Royal Mail to be restructured for private investment to be introduced into the business. Although the post office network will still be owned by the Crown, the service it provides now may soon change. The CWU, along with 20 other animal charities, enforcement agencies and trade unions, is calling on the government to make urgent amendments to the outdated Dangerous Dogs Act of 1991. Around 6,000 postal workers and 400 telecom engineers are attacked by dogs whilst carrying out their duties every year. Yet prosecution of owners is made very difficult, as current law doesn't protect those attacked on private property. The union is now calling for vital dog control legislation reforms to be taken forward in the Dog Control Bill next year.
The campaign itself has been a high-profile, concentrated campaign which has gained a lot of support, widespread support. On the 26th of February this year, the Scottish Government introduced a new dangerous dogs legislation, and on the 8th of March, the Northern Ireland Government introduced new dangerous dogs legislation directly as a result of our campaign, and the new laws that they've introduced meet the main aspirations of our campaigns. Now, we're saying to this government, look, you know, Northern Ireland and Scotland have made these changes. We need to actually make sure that we've got a consistent approach across the United Kingdom so that we've got laws that will protect workers and the public alike.
Mounting evidence from branches of brutal performance management tactics unfolding in BT businesses across the country has led the CWU to give a dramatic ultimatum to the company: cease the application of those policies by November the 30th or face a ballot for industrial action.
Well, at the moment, we've not moved far in the campaign. What we're actually doing at the moment is we've spoken to BT and we've managed to get them back around the table to talk to us to resolve this situation. But I think we have to make it clear, if BT don't move on this issue to our satisfaction, we will win back in a major campaign throughout the whole of the company, and it will be the whole of the company. And unfortunately, if we can't get them to see sense, we will be asking our members to ballot for industrial action on it.
Members overwhelmingly passed a further motion in the name of Coventry branch demanding the removal of the current performance management procedure in its entirety.
There's now people being given compromise agreements to leave the company. We think they've been used far too much. We want them to stop them. There's league tables going on which are unacceptable to us. And the big issue that's also coming up is sick absences at the moment. So we'll have to do a lot of work. There's about eight or nine different major points to this performance management. But it's got steadily worse over the last year or so.
Now let's take a quick look at some of the other stories from around the union hitting the headlines this month. Postal workers in Canada have been forced back to work following new laws to stop rolling strikes across the country in a dispute over pay and working conditions. The CWU has sent a stark warning to BT Openreach that the union isn't prepared to see a repeat of the forced overtime fiasco to cover systemic resourcing shortages. And the union has promised to keep a close eye on a groundbreaking joint venture announced by Everything Everywhere, Telefonica UK and Vodafone that promises to fast-track the development of innovative mobile services. After a number of disagreements between the CWU and BT Retail, the union is keen to resolve issues regarding performance management and management style before it has no choice but to ballot its members for industrial action. Union members voiced their anger regarding these issues at this year's annual conference.
Unfortunately, we have evidence of a culture that exists of bullying and harassment of our people, which has seen a lot of people actually leave jobs. Unfortunately, these jobs have not been backfilled within the UK. These jobs, we believe, have actually been re-provided within India. I'm extremely positive that BT now recognise that there is a real problem there and they intend to work with this union to do something about that. And that is something that I do welcome.
CWU sent out a message of solidarity to all public sector workers that went on strike last month. CWU activists and officials turned up to picket lines across the UK to demonstrate their support, whilst in London hundreds of thousands of teachers, lecturers, prison officers and immigration staff marched through Westminster to show their disgust for what they call the unjustified cuts to public sector pensions.
I think in discussing the strike action that unions have been taking across the country, I think we need to track back and look at a wider picture. I mean, across Europe there's an economic meltdown and we're seeing public spending cuts and rising unemployment. In Britain what we've seen is an alliance of a right-wing government, a Conservative government propped up by a handful of Liberal Democrat MPs, the right-wing press and big business who formed an alliance. I think the other point we need to be clear about is that the problem, or the crisis it's being termed, was caused by the profligacy, inefficiency and greed of the banking system. Workers therefore, and trade unions as workers, organisations and representatives are entirely right in doing what they can to fight that inequality and to fight the attack that comes on their living standards and their pensions as a result. So we refute categorically that the crisis caused by the banking system is the fault of workers, pensioners or council house tenants, and we will again support any workers that take that type of action.
The recent Panorama programme broadcast on BBC One titled Why Hate Junk Mail investigated the link between the Postal Service and business mail. The CWU says it welcomes any public debate on this important issue, but the programme repeatedly confused junk mail, vital for the survival of Royal Mail, with scam mail, a crude practice aiming to elicit money from vulnerable members of the public, and a practice utterly condemned by the CWU.
While many of us may love to hate junk mail, Royal Mail must positively adore it.
There is absolutely no question that advertising mail, which the critics describe as junk mail, is central to the financial viability of the Royal Mail in the 21st century.
And finally, the CWU picked up 4 awards at this year's TUC Communication Awards, held at Congress House in London. The annual awards celebrate the very best in trade union communications, and with only 7 awards available, this year's haul for the union was almost a clean sweep.
Well, the CWU's won Best Campaign for the second year running for our Don't Hang Up on Barrow campaign. We won Best Use of an Illustration, which was used in the Keep the Post Public campaign, which was the funky use of a postbox to illustrate a number of emotions. But perhaps most pleasing is Best Website and Best Use of e-communications, because what that shows is the way this union's modernising its communications, the way we're speaking to a younger and more diverse audience, and that's really important. Communications isn't just about bits of paper anymore, and it's important that we're out there.
Well, that's all for this month. Don't forget you can follow all the latest news, in-depth reports and extended interviews on the union's digital platforms CWU TV and eVoice. But until next time, thanks for watching.